Darling, we've had one hell of a time, but the question on everybody's mind, where is the power? We've had one hell of a time, but the question on everybody's mind.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Rosenberg. And this is Ideas Don't Bleed, a podcast about comic books and other things around comic books, I guess. I am one of your hosts, Matthew Rosenberg. I am the writer of a lot of comic books like Uncanny X-Men and DC versus Vampires and We Can Never Go Home and Four Kids Walk Into a Bank and What's the Furthest Place from Here and a lot of other stuff. And I'm excited to do this podcast. This is our first episode, so it's going to be a little clunky and clumsy, which we hope is charming and probably is not, but you'll bear with us. And in a year, you'll be like, wow, this guy's got so much better at this. And that's fun because growth is great. And joining me would be my good friend Griffin.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I had to work up to the energy.
I like
No, it's good.
We're here now.
I could feel you charging up.
Thanks. I'm Griffin Sheridan. I'm one of two Supple Boiz.
That's right.
That helps make a bunch of stuff for some people that are more famous than us, including Ryan Stegman, Donny Cates, and maybe someone else by the time you hear this. I don't know.
Maybe more announced.
I don't know. And we're also budding comic book writers ourselves. And who's the other one? I'm
Ethan.
One?
I'm the other Supple Boy. There's two of us here with Matt.
It's so exciting. It really is.
That.
And we do have a guest as well.
That's right.
We do. Are we getting right into the guest?
I don't see why
not.
Why not?
Yeah, I like the idea of making her wait and being just like prisoner, but our guest is my very good friend and former Uncanny X-Men writing partner and somewhat fremesis, my
frenemy,
but more severe than a frenemy.
Okay,
like really a nemesis level. The wonderful Kelly Thompson is here. Kelly,
what about anemone? That way, it puts the nemesis part right up front.
An anemone is that thing that lives at the bottom of the ocean.
Not an anemone. Never mind. This went nowhere. Also, I will not get better with time, so it's better to get me on fast.
Yeah, you're only on this one, so you have to be good, or we're just going to tell everyone we fired you.
Yeah, it's a downhill ride for me from here on out. So
yeah,
get on now. Last chance.
We don't know you guys super well, but there's certainly a tension. There's an adversarial nature here that I think, as far as like a first episode, I think it's exactly what you want. I think fireworks are going to pop.
This is our relationship is like a Chekhov's gun. One of us is going to be dead at the end of this.
For sure.
There's
exciting.
Oh wait, at the end of this podcast?
At the end of this,
wow.
Yeah, not at the end of time. At the end of time, we're all going to be dead. I'm sorry to break this to you, Kelly.
Listen, you didn't know about time zones yesterday, so let's not bring time into it. Okay?
I knew about them. I didn't realize we were all using them. It's not.
You mean the thing we use to communicate with each other in different time zones?
You're using we in a very broad way. The thing you use. Look, the number of things I miss regularly because people say time zones and I don't pay attention to them is staggering.
I just don't know why 3 hours behind or 3 hours ahead is insanely complicated math for me for some reason. Like it's basic addition or subtraction, and yet figuring out what time I'm supposed to be on a call is always a puzzle. It's
I have an editor who I won't name because I want to be able to keep working at my job, who very often says things like, oh, it'll be, and just get time zones wrong and be like, it'll be 3 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock your time. And I'm like, no, that would put me in Sri Lanka. Like, that's not correct. And it's great. And I'm always just like, do you mean, like, I'm just going to assume you mean 3 o'clock your time and 6 o'clock.
Whatever that means for me. I'll do the math after this email.
after this phone call. And it happens so much that I love it. I think it's great. I stopped pointing it out and just being like, yeah, let's just go.
Griff and I have been working together for years and coordinating with other people, but Griff and I live 3 hours apart time wise, and so our lives are fucking nightmares. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, where do you guys? I know where you guys live, but say where you live anyway. If do you feel
Arizona.
comfortable saying where you live?
Yeah, my home address is.
So wait, Matt was talking over it. Where are you guys actually?
I am in West Michigan.
Okay.
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, Arizona.
Although a year ago I was in Alaska.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, because I remember when you were in Alaska, and I was just like, that's weird. And
Well, Alaska,
it was weird.
Arizona is such a twist too. Were you Arizona, Alaska, Arizona, or?
Not even. It's a whole saga, but essentially, like, I'm always in a bizarre place, and we're never in the correct time with each other, and we're always having to coordinate with people in different times.
There's a 4-hour difference when you were in Alaska. That was fun.
That was super fun.
Oh wow, that
Seems like some sort of blockbuster time traveling romance that should be on a 40-foot screen in front of me. Definitely.
Yeah.
We're working on it. We're working.
This is it.
I don't mean to get ahead of ourselves as far as the book that we're
Matthew.
writing right now, but yeah.
Yeah. This is well, I'm glad that we're all here despite being in 4 very different places. That's the miracle of technology and podcasting. I don't know.
The magic of podcasts.
I'm going to just refer to this like it's a podcast, even though some people will be watching it on YouTube probably, and dealing with the fact that I'm very sweaty because it's 93 degrees in New York today. And if I run my air conditioner and fans, like, it would just sound like I was in a wind tunnel. So we're basically, if you're a YouTube viewer, like, this isn't for you, you're an afterthought. I'm sorry. Like, this is for podcast people, where you can imagine that I'm not dripping with sweat and that we all look nice and are happy right now.
So
Maybe
YouTube viewers just consider themselves lucky. That
Yeah, you're
they got the opportunity. I see.
Yeah.
special
I see how it-
bonus.
special.
That's our stance here. We'll put this on YouTube, but if you're on YouTube, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. To all the people who take time out of their day to watch this on YouTube,
Yeah.
literally no thought or consideration went into this, and your calling you an afterthought would be disingenuous.
I mean, at least you guys showed up. So
No, it's
I'm
not
not
true.
even there.
In some ways, we like the YouTube viewers even more.
Okay.
In some ways,
In
but
some
in most ways,
In most ways, no.
No.
We're really dismissive to them, and in some ways, we love them. So yeah, let's get back to having a point here. The point of this, I don't know, just an idea. The point of this was I have a deal with the company Substack to make things, as does Kelly, as do you gentlemen as well, to a degree.
Sort of, yeah.
sort of, by proxy. And so one of the things I thought would be fun to do was make a podcast where I talk with comic creators, where we talk with comic creators. I'm not a professional talker like Ethan and Griffin, and I'm very bad with technology. And so I was like, I'm going to team up with them. We're bring this together.
Call.
yeah,
I thought so.
yeah, we're podcasting legends, really. At this
Yeah.
point.
I just wanted some coattails to ride.
You
And
want the best, you get the best.
yeah, I
Listen,
went out.
I know how much has been on your plate. It's a very good decision. You brought in professionals to help you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, if I hadn't brought them in, this would be me on the phone with you talking for an hour, and then afterwards I'll be like, did we record that?
Did you record that or did I?
Was
Oh.
I supposed to record that? And then it would never happen again. So here we are, we're podcasting, and I wanted to have my friend Kelly on as the first guest. One, because if it's terrible, afterwards she'll call me and be like, that was terrible. You're an idiot. And that would tell me to make it better. And that's good. I think that's good, because I don't trust you guys to tell me if this is awful.
You should.
You should. You guys are paid to be here, so like, you're gonna be like, that was great. We should do this 10 times a
We
week.
should do it all the time.
All the
really.
time. This is just a 24-hour live stream, and you just pay me. But the other reason I wanted to have Kelly on is because Kelly has a book that she is making right now, a few books, but I thought we could talk about your new book, Kelly.
I would love to.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Black Cloak?
Oh shit! I am unprepared. Okay.
You know what the book is, right? You've heard of it?
Yeah, I do, but you know, that summary, man, it takes a while to get good at really succinctly doing it, and I don't want to waste everybody's time more than I already have. So Black Cloak is sort of a sci-fi fantasy world. I describe it as any sort of fantasy world that you love after they defeated and vanquished the big bad. And now it's just a lot of creatures trying to live together, and it's not going great. Black Cloaks in this world are detectives, murder police, basically homicide. And so crimes still happen, and somebody's got to close cases and clear bodies and stuff. But it's a new idea for this world, the idea of law and order. And so it's not going great. That part isn't going great either. Nothing's going great for anyone here. But it's basically structured as a murder mystery. We start with a body in the opening episode, and we just dump you right in. Do not expect a big prologue. Do not expect the world building is a come as you go scenario, which is how I like my world building. You just go in and you're learning as you go, the same way as if you'd been dropped onto another planet yourself and you had to just sort of get going. So we've got a couple Black Cloaks at the center and a murder case to be solved, and all sorts of creatures and magic and tech nonsense, and we're having a really good time. My co-creator and artist is Meredith McLaren. She does art including colors. Becca Carey is our letterer, and Charles Beecham is doing our editing. He was my old Hawkeye editor from back in the Marvel days. Well, I mean, they're still my Marvel days, but they're no longer his Marvel days, I guess. And Ryan Hughes is doing our book design for our covers. So I think that's the whole team. We keep it pretty tight, thanks to Substack. So we're 5 chapters in, which is about the equivalent of about 3 print issues, basically. And
I don't know if you've talked about, is there a print plan? I don't know if that's public.
Yes. Well, it's not sort of officially public yet, but it probably will be by the time this is out, which is the first issue of Black Cloak will be coming out in January 2023. It looks like it'll be about 6 issues right now for the first story, and that'll be from Image. And the first issue will be about 60 pages. So very generous in size, but I think we're going to keep the price low, so it'll be like $5 or under, I think. So
awesome. Great.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. It's been the experience of doing it on Substack has been really fun. It's been a lot of work, but it's also been really cool to sort of share work in that sort of intimate space, where like only a certain number of people are even allowed to comment because only paid subscribers can comment. And so it's been interesting. It's been really supportive and fun. And I think for anyone doing this in a real way, whether it's Donnie or Matt or me or anybody, I think the print thing is still a big question mark. I think probably a book from Donnie and Ryan, there's no real question that's going to be a monster. I'm not exactly Donnie. Meredith isn't exactly Ryan Stegman, but I still creating something really interesting, and I'm excited to see how we can do at Image. It's an adventure,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go.
Yeah, I had a question for you, because I'm first of all, I love the book, and I'm also super excited for everything that we've seen from the call. That looks incredible, and I wanted to ask you and Matt, but because you're the guest, more focused to you, and Matt, keep it brief, all right? The whole Substack spiel is like that. Like this is an opportunity for you to get to kind of cut loose and like work on stuff that you've been wanting to. These like projects you've had, and you're toiling around in your brain and everything. How true is that for you with the stuff that you're doing your Substack with? Are these things that you've had kind of like rattling around? Are these things that you feel like, oh, like while I'm at Marvel, these are the sorts of things that I wish I could be doing and spending time on?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, Black Cloak under a different name is a project I've been wanting to do for a long time. It used to be called The Red ages ago. So I've been sitting on that for a long time and wanting to figure out how to do it. And Substack really, I mean, I know different people have different feelings about it, but I mean, literally, I could not make this happen over the last few years. Like having the ability to set aside both time and money to do creator-owned stuff. It's just not that easy. I mean, I'm working more than a full-time job with Marvel already. I was doing, so I was at the edge of what I could do. And so without that grant money, like there was no way for me to be like, oh, sure, I'll cut back to 1 or 2 books and spend some time on this. So it was a huge opportunity for me. I think you'll see in the case of both The Cull and Black Cloak, as well as our unannounced third title.
Do you want to announce that on our show, like an exclusive?
If I knew when this show was going to be out or when I would have more pages from my artist, I would. But since that remains a giant question mark right now.
It's going to be out in 3 years.
Oh, then that's safe. That's safe. Yeah. Maybe. But I think you'll see a lot of queer characters because that's something that can get tied up in nonsense at the big two. And that's not to put the blame on anyone or to be a dick about it. It's just a reality. Like there are a lot of levels you have to go through when you're dealing with big corporate comics, and more things are getting considered than just, like when I make a change to Carol Danvers, it's like, even though we've had a really long run on Carol Danvers, that's $1 billion property, so they don't just let freelance writers just come in and do whatever they want. Like there's a lot of steps, but so there's been a lot of freedom, I guess, in doing my own stuff where I know nobody is going to tell me no. I mean, I've got an editor there and hopefully good collaborators who will give you a reality check if you've gone the wrong direction. But there's definitely not that sort of corporate overreach, that sometimes happens. Yeah. That's been wonderful.
I wonder, I find an interesting thing that I never considered when I was coming up. The freedom of doing your own books and indie books can, in some ways, like I find it paralyzing at times. Yes. Like there's no guardrails. Like there's only so much I can do with, Red Hood or Hawkeye or whatever. I can't just break them. And having just the wide open road of like, I could switch what genre this book is tomorrow if I felt like it. I can do anything. I could kill the entire cast. And like, I find that it's so freeing that it freezes you in your tracks. And I wonder if you hit up against that after so long at Marvel.
Yes, that's what I call the meat dress problem. Yeah.
Don't explain. Please don't explain.
Moving on.
So if you guys have ever seen, and this applies to a lot of these kind of reality shows, but the one that I'm talking about was Project Runway, which was they would give them these challenges that had these incredible, horrible, hey, make a ball gown entirely out of meat, and they'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? And, so they'd all be in shock and horror, but they would turn out these incredible things with these limitations. And then you would, every time you would get to one where they're like, unlimited budget, extra day, turn out your best couture look or whatever. And it was trash. They could not do it. And I think it was because all those guardrails were removed. You forget to self-edit, you panic, you're given all this freedom all of a sudden, and you freak out. I mean, it's one of the big reasons I put an editor on my books first thing. Not that was going to save me from the paralysis or anything, but I felt like I at least had another hand on the wheel that could steer us into the mountain if we were going off the cliff, I don't know. And so that was really important to me. And Charles, I really trusted from, he was so important with working with me and Sana on Hawkeye. So it was like I felt so much better once I brought him on, which I know that, Image books don't always do that. And you could certainly do these Substack books without that. I mean, but I just want another eye on the road and hand on the wheel, because Matt is very right. The paralysis is a very real thing. I've had more trouble with my Substack book deadlines than anything else. And that's not just paralysis. That's a few things. But yeah, it's very hard when it's an open road and also you're setting your deadline date. Like, I mean, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing for me to blow past my editor's deadline because I can't figure it out. It's another thing to like not even acknowledge that I gave myself a deadline.
Right.
It's a mess. So
Substack's, paying us to make podcasts and stuff, not comic books, but we are working on a comic book, and we've had the crazy opportunity for our first book to be something original, to be something that we want it to be. And it's like, it is like there is a paralysis to it where it's like yeah, okay, we've got a lot of Spider-Man pitch ideas, but with if we can do anything, what is it?
What are our non-Spider-Man ideas?
Where's North? And so yeah, it is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I said once to someone like, the difference between creator-owned and work for hire books is like work for hire is getting into a car and you have a destination, and creator-owned is just getting into a car and driving. And I remember a fan like quoted that back to me, and they were like, "Why would anyone do work for hire? That sounds horrible." And I was like, 95% of people who use cars are going somewhere. Like that's the point of cars. Like just driving like is fun. Joyriding is like a concept in cars that sort of like went out of vogue when they invented seatbelts or like
or when traffic became
a
very legitimate thing that nobody would want to go out in ever.
Yeah. It's like the concept of just joyriding like is when you're showing off your horseless buggy to people. It's not a modern use of things. And so I was like, I don't see it as this horrible thing to have a vehicle that has a destination and go there. It's just this sort of like, they're just different mentalities in this very
it's funny way. Though, that person not understanding the analogy for starters or not grasping it is hilarious. But also, I mean, I defy someone to look you in the eye with a straight face as a creator, a person who's a creator, and to be like, no, I have no interest in redefining icons.
Yeah.
I mean, get real. Like, yes, we all want to create something lasting and powerful. And, I would adore to create something, better than a Batman or a Wonder Woman or whatever, just, something that really touches people and that makes a difference. And that, we all crave that. But I mean, if you can redefine a character like Wonder Woman or something as through your work, it's an incredible, huge joy and an incredible opportunity that, it's very easy once you get inside the grind, or they call it the churn more, I think, at Marvel. Is that the name? Is that what it's called? The churn? There's another word too.
Both options sound really exciting.
Either way, they're selling it really well.
Where you're in it and you're writing a lot and you're caught up in it and you're starting to miss deadlines and you're really overwhelmed. All this stuff is happening. And it seems like an impossible thing from the outside because you're like, why would this job ever be that hard, or would you get that sick of it? And it's just like anything else. Like, it doesn't matter your dream job. There's still burnout. There's still a really real thing where you have to put new information in order to grow new things in your brain. And when you're ingesting as much superhero comics as we are, it's really important, I think, to step outside that and make sure you remember that ideas come from other places, not from within the comics. I mean, to me, the comics are there. If you're working on corporate stuff, it's there to sort of guide you towards getting it right and to help find things that you can twist into things. But you really got to bring ideas from outside. Otherwise, what are you doing? But when you bring something from outside to your creator-owned, it's you're not twisting or subverting anything. You're taking a whole cloth idea and trying to turn it into something. It's a very different trick, and it's surprisingly hard. And I don't know about Matt, but I start to get good at the formula of Marvel Comics, and you forget that you're still just out there.
Yeah, I sort of wonder, like, going back to Black Cloak, like, you're doing this interesting thing of sort of mashing up police procedural detective story with fantasy, and it's it both relies on tropes and ideas from both but because it's these two different separate ideas, the tropes sometimes are subverted or conflict or you twist them. And I sort of wonder, not to just be like, ask where your ideas come from, but like what came first for you? Like, did you want to tell a fantasy story and you were trying to figure out what that story could be, or did you want to do a detective murder mystery and then trying to figure out how to upend that?
I wish I had a less shallow answer for this, but I really think it's just, these are the things I like. And a lot of times people don't put them together in the way I want them to be put together. Like, which is not to disrespect all the amazing stories that I love and all the incredible creators, but like a lot of times fantasy, I mean, an even better example is prose fantasy. I never read it. And I feel like such a charlatan that I don't read it, but I don't like it. I don't like it because of the description required. I find it very boring. I get lost. I've tried to read Lord of the Rings. I've tried to read Fellowship. I don't know how many times now. And when the movies came out many years ago now, I thought, this is my chance. Like, I really want to watch those movies. I think I'm going to be into it. I got to get through this. At that time in my life, I was reading a lot of literary fiction, and I could not understand why I can't get through this book. And it's just because that intense description that almost always comes with prose fantasy, it bores the crap out of me. So do prologues. So do lots of world building before we even get into any plot or any character stuff. I'm interested in characters, and I'm interested in certain genres. And so I want to mix up. I love sci-fi stuff, and sci-fi prose as well has worked for me in a way that fantasy hasn't, but I still like all that fantasy stuff. And so when I look at Black Cloak, I'm like, I don't see why it has to be one or the other. Like, it's more interesting to me if magic and science are in contrast to each other in this world. They're sort of working together, but people want different things from them. It's sort of interesting to me if the challenge for some detectives working a murder case are that none of these people get along because they're, and it's a really obvious metaphor too. I love a big, obvious metaphor. Monsters are monsters. Oh, wait, are they? It's like, so I just like all that stuff, and I just want to jam it all together in like a format that I like the most. And so that's sort of how Black Cloak happens. I wish it was less than, these are the toys I like, let's put them in a blender, but I think that's probably the truth.
No, I mean, I think that's a really honest answer.
Hey everybody, it's Ethan popping in later to let you know that that's going to wrap us up for part 1 of our discussion with Kelly Thompson. We'll be back next week with part 2, which, hey, gives you plenty of time to go check out Kelly's book, Black Cloak, because we're diving deeper into that book in the second part of our discussion.
Make sure you head over to 1979semifinalist.substack.com so that you can catch up on Black Cloak, listen along, and check out all the great stuff that Kelly Thompson and her wonderful collaborators are cooking up for you.
To get the latest episodes of this podcast, as well as access to news, giveaways, and even comics from Team Ashcan Press delivered straight to your inbox, go to ashcanpress.com and sign up for the newsletter. In the meantime, we want to hear what you have to say about the show. Suggestions, thoughts, concerns, etc. Email us at ideasdon'tbleedpod@gmail.com. Let us know anything you got to say, or you can tweet at any of us. You can tweet at Matthew Rosenberg, at Ashcan Press. I am at Tales to Astonish. Griffin is at Griff Sheridan. And we'll do our best to get back to you, or include your correspondence on the show, or both.
And big thanks to Summer People for our theme song, Where's the Poison?
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for part 2 with Kelly Thompson.
Where is the point?